Okay, I think we are live at the moment. Today we have Jesse Koslowski. We're going to be going over the drive that he did, collecting a bunch of waypoints across the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway. If you are a new subscriber, which I have a bunch, this channel does take a lot of photography dealing with showing the curvature of the Earth. And I interview people on a regular basis. Today's not really an interview. Today is more of a recap of a project that me and Jesse were involved in. There were some other guys as well, Mike, the Globetard, and James, Dandy Pandy. He was also there. And so we are going to be going over Jesse's results. So as I have a new corkboard, and I'm adding items to my corkboard as I interview people, I'll go ahead and consider this an interview, Jesse, and throw your item up there. Beautiful picture of Little Tensas Bayou. Really appreciate that. And Jesse, thanks for joining me, man.
Absolutely. Good to be on your channel, Soundly. Actually, I guess I can call you Lance now.
Yeah, you can call me Lance or Soundly, either way.
Just Soundly comes natural. That's how I've always known you. So
that's fine.
I figured it's about time we show some of the results.
I'm looking forward to this, man.
It's so collecting the data was easy. The harder part is putting it into a presentation and to a visual form. And I just got an email from Walter Bislin 4 minutes before we went live, and he's really made. I'm going to turn off my phone. It's I've got the YouTube going on the phone. Okay, so he's made a lot of enhancements to his blog, and especially using this data. So I'll be showing that at the end.
Yeah, I've actually been putting off showing people this this new tool that he's provided because you wanted to show it today for the first time.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy to kind of get it out there so that other people can start taking advantage of it, because he did make a general tool which lets people upload their own data. So this is going to be very interesting.
Yeah. So I've got a presentation put together. I guess, let's see, do I need to share my screen, or you're already seeing my screen? Let me know.
I see your video, but yeah, you need to share your screen. Yeah.
Okay, let me do that.
And I just... as a side note here, I think that we were able to get a good audio setup here. If that's not the case, please let me know in the chat. I will check that out.
Yeah, let us know. We had different volume settings. I was loud and you were kind of soft.
Yeah, I think it's good now, but right. I mean, based on looking at it, the feed, it looks good.
Okay. Well, look, I'll get this thing started. It's really the first presentation that I'm calling the Gnss survey of the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway, and there's going to be a bit of a tutorial on the spatial reference system that GPS and Gnss operates within. And I've already done a little bit of this, but I'm going to pare it down and go through some of it again. This whole thing about the ECEF coordinate system, the Earth-centered, Earth-fixed Cartesian coordinate system. So let's do that. Before we get into that, I'll just make mention of what kind of motivates me to stay involved with this whole flat Earth thing. I guess found out about flat Earth in 2015, and then once I was in, looking at some of this, I made a video called Geodetic Surveyor Straightens Out the Flat Earth, naively thinking, well, that, they just obviously hadn't heard of geodesy, and that'll take care of flat Earth. So instantly after that, videos were coming out about geodesy, and geodetic surveying proves the flat Earth. And over here on the left, we see different surveyors claiming that they never compute curvature in their work. And, that's good enough for a flat earther to just say, well, that means the Earth is flat. Well, it really just means that surveyor does not compute curvature in his work. And there's a lot of surveyors who don't. I mean, they just do what's called plane surveying, because they just do a short extent of a survey. Or if they are working on long projects, highway projects and other projects, and they're not doing the calculations, that just means someone else is. So I do what I can to try to help people see this and try to understand the differences here. So I'm just waiting for the next flat Earth survey or flat Earth video to come out, and it'll be the globe proves flat Earth. So whatever we bring forward, that ends up being proof of flat Earth.
That is how they do it these days. Yes. Yes,
So
they're busy spending their days explaining why their flat plane looks exactly like a globe every time we measure it and photograph it.
But it couldn't be curved, no.
Mm-mm.
So yeah. So people know that I've tried my best to engage with Chris Van the Tree. Had some live hangouts with him early on, like a year ago, and then I tried again later. Especially when I saw this video that he's going to do this flat Earth survey, update 1. I haven't heard anything more about this, but Chris chose not to continue the discussions. I mean, it wasn't meant to be a debate. It was really meant to be a discussion. And the reason I'm bringing up Chris again here is simply that he's still involved in the flat Earth community, as far as I know, and I still think he works as a surveyor. And the point to this is this, that I'm going to make a presentation tonight that may interest him, and it would be interesting to find out what his take is on what I'm going to show tonight, since he has that level of expertise as someone working in the surveying business, and he uses GPS and made that known in our hangouts, and he says it works quite well. So he uses it all the time, just like I do. And then further, just to understand that the things that I'm going to show you tonight are exactly what he would do if he could do exactly what I did. And it's simple. You're going to see I just mounted a GPS receiver on my car and drove across the causeway. So there was really nothing special to that. So he would collect the same data that I collected. So it's a matter of taking a look at this data and seeing what it tells us. And that's the last thing I'll say about this slide, is that we all have our opinions and we can all bring our own ideas about things, but really the proof is in the pudding. It's in the measurements. So I asked Chris to go ahead and do a very simple test. I think flat earthers who are looking up to him or looking at him as someone to give credence or credibility to flat Earth just should ask him, what would happen if you did that test? What would happen if you measured 1,000 feet? It wouldn't even take you a half an hour to do it. And the fact is that that all the GPS that he's doing is the same as what I'm going to show tonight. And the reason I'm going into this in some detail is because a lot of flat earthers are looking at what we did here at Lake Pontchartrain. So try to understand the importance of this. So there's no hocus pocus to this data, and we'll get into this a little bit more. So in a nutshell, the system that GNSS operates in, or is referenced to, is a three-dimensional Cartesian coordinate system. It's a rectangular coordinate system, and any point P can be described as having coordinates X, Y, and Z. And that's how it works. It isn't latitude and longitude. It's not elevations. It's Cartesian coordinates X, Y, and Z. Now, once you have those coordinates, you can do things with them, such as convert them to latitude and longitude and ellipsoid height. Keep in mind, this is a three-dimensional system. So it's not only latitude and longitude, it's latitude, longitude, and ellipsoid height, height above or below the ellipsoid. But we don't have to do that. You can leave it right here, and you're going to find out that in the test that we're going to look at, these are the coordinates that we ended up using that reveals the shape of the bridge. So back to this. Customarily, what we normally would do with our survey data is not leave it in X, Y, and Z Cartesian, but to go ahead and convert it to latitude and longitude and ellipsoid height. And once we do that, And here's the math for that. This was included in the other video I did. Just converting, you can go from latitude, longitude, and ellipsoid height to XYZ, or XYZ to lat, long, and height. And once you do that, you're able to develop elevations. Okay, so you're going to take the heights that are referenced to the ellipsoid, and you're going to apply a geoid model to arrive at elevations. And that is what we normally would be doing in day-to-day survey work. And it would look like this after you've converted to latitude and longitude. You're going to planarize that, because ideally you want to be working in a very simple system, simple trig, simple geometry, x, y coordinates. And, nobody really works with latitudes and longitudes when they're doing house stakeouts or construction stakeout or property surveys. We're generally planarizing a small portion of the Earth, which could be a whole state or a county or even a little neighborhood. So what you're going to end up with are x, y coordinates, and we can make use of these types of geometric arrangements, either using an intersecting cone or cylinder to develop these northing, eastings, or y-x coordinates. And that's what the United States state plane system is built on, and also the worldwide system used, which is called Universal Transverse Mercator, UTM, and certainly all the countries in the world have their own localized projections for their countries. So here's an example just showing you this data that was collected on the causeway. This is in Louisiana, South Zone, state plane coordinates on the North American datum of 1983, adjustment 2011. And here we have the northing and eastings, and here are the elevations. And you're going to find out that this causeway is very level. They built the thing to be level, except for the marine spans and the humps where boats go underneath of. Otherwise, this thing is level, and you're going to see that. Here's an output of a comma delimited file just from Excel with the point ID, northing, easting, and the elevations, and just a description of the road surface. And you can see these points are approximately collected about every 10 meters or so, and you can see how level they are. And this is in meters. So we would take these types, normally, what we would normally do in surveying is to take these coordinates and put them on a map. Here's a USGS 7.5 minute topographic quadrangle map. Here's Mandeville. And the coordinates on the side are latitude and longitude, but also UTM and also Louisiana state plane coordinates. They are here too. And what I've done here is just taken that topographic map into my global mapper program and plotted the points collected as northing, easting values on this map. So that's your normal use of GPS and surveying, is to create a map for some purpose, whether it's for design, for engineering design, or a property survey or something like that. This is how we would normally proceed. And here's another map of the same area, and this one is in UTM coordinates. So that is the normal way of doing business day to day as a surveyor. What we're going to do here is not planarize these, but leave them as X, Y, Z coordinates. And so we're going to basically be just dealing with the actual vectors themselves rather than projecting it to the ellipsoid or to the ground. We're going to be staying right in this Cartesian system. And here's what those coordinates look like. So we have the point ID, and we have the Earth center, Earth fixed X value, the Y value, and the Z. And is this coming across okay? Can you see it on the screen pretty good? soundly? You there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Okay,
perfect.
good. Now, what I also did is I added the column E, and I put the elevations there. The elevations have nothing to do with these XYZ coordinates. I just wanted them to be there as part of the display so that when I create my graphic visuals, you'll be able to see what the elevation is of point SB. SB stands for southbound, point 42. That will be displayed. Also here, this column is indicating the precision at which this data was collected and processed. And
Is that
there's,
0.02 meters?
yes, 2 centimeters
Wow.
horizontal, 5 centimeters vertical. And let's talk about that real quickly. These are at a 1 sigma. They're not at a high confidence. They're at a 68.3 confidence. That's your standard error of 1 sigma.
Gotcha.
So for higher assurance, you would multiply this by 1.96 to get 2 sigma, or you could say just 2. Just double these. So we're going to say that the vertical is good to about a decimeter, which is what, about 3-4 inches,
So
right?
within 10 centimeters.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, I mean,
So
that's
it's what?
still
So
really good.
Yeah, it's like 4 inches or something, right?
Right.
And I mean, I'm just doubling it up just for to be conservative about it.
Right.
So and you'll see them rise up and down as you look through the file. So basically, there's the file that we're going to be using for the graphics here. Now, here's an example of just surveying something. You take this billboard, and if we were to survey the corners of these letters, we'd be able to draw lines between those. And if we surveyed the corners of the billboard, we'd be able to determine the shape of that billboard. And this would have nothing to do with whether I'm straight onto it or skewed to it. What I'm getting at here is this whole idea about perspective does not affect the actual physical location of where these corners are. The dimensions are going to be the actual dimensions no matter what the visual looks like. So keep that in mind as we start to look at some of this data and some of Soundly's pictures, because people are just really struggling with what is obvious. So here's a small test I did on the 6th of January, and that was a Sunday, and this is on Little Gnss Bayou. I went back there, this is a year later, and I measured the reciprocal zenith angles across that. It's about a 6-mile stretch, something like that. On the plane ride home, I did some calculations, and this is kind of rough here, but I'm throwing it in because this is going to be one of these launching points to do another video or a presentation on these results. But I just took the XYZ coordinates of the tops and the bottoms to determine the tilt between them, because obviously the plumb lines are inclined outward away from each other. And that came out to be 5 minutes 50 seconds of inclination. And what I measured was 5 minutes, just roughly 5 minutes 40 seconds. Let's round that off. Those are the adjusted angles.
So you're saying that your measurement over Little Gnss Bayou was correct within 12 seconds
I wouldn't
of the predicted value.
No, I didn't. I haven't even calculated what the prediction is.
Okay.
And again, I haven't even looked at this thoroughly. I'm just showing you that, hey, I measured zenith angles. That was the tilt I determined there. And then using the GPS, I'm finding very good agreement. I would not say, oh, it's good to 12 seconds or something.
Okay.
But if we want, we could round off to minutes, let's say. There's going to be a plus or minus value in the seconds column, but certainly we would say the minutes are good.
Right.
6 minutes, let's say. Let's round it off to 6 minutes. Almost 6 minutes, maybe not. Maybe 5 to 6 minutes, okay? Something like that. So there's that. So this see where this is going. And now that's a simple test. Obviously, now we're going to look at a very long bridge. I also want to make the point that there's so much controversy about how GPS works, how it, like Chris Van Matre had made it clear that he uses GPS, but he doesn't believe in satellites, and it's all based on cell towers and so forth. But whatever the case is, I mean, whatever you want to believe about that, the fact is that highways are being built using GPS. Here's a road grader with GPS mounted, controlling that blade and controlling the alignment of where they're building this road. Same thing for these bulldozers. Everything this is called machine control construction now, and you're going to see this all the time. This is what's happening, whether it's cell towers or satellites. This is working. So it ought to have worked for what we did.
Yeah, I'd like to just reiterate that before you go further. Is that
Yeah.
We've had a number of flat earthers, even the world famous Bilu video where they were using GPS. So GPS is definitely something that they have agreed works. They just disagree how it works. So
I'm glad you brought up Bilu, because I have to give credit where credit's due. This whole tilt thing here that I've been doing this past year, I got the idea from Bilu. I'm not kidding. Sally, you and I were out there in Minnesota at George's, and that's about when that Bilu video came out.
Right.
And those scientists were talking about the tilts of buildings and using GPS to determine that. So that's where I got the idea. I'm not kidding. And it works, by the way. It does work.
About shooting yourself in the foot, huh?
I've computed the tilt between the Washington Monument and the Empire State Building, the Washington Monument and the Sears Tower in Chicago. I mean, nice. I've never made a video of that, but that would be another cool little, thing to look at and make some graphics. I really need somebody to do animation, because, the measurements are easy to make, honestly.
Okay, so we can establish that GPS does in fact work. Yeah. Regardless of how it works, it does work.
Yeah. Well, here's a graphic that tells us how it works. Whether you want to believe it or not, the fact is that it's used in agriculture a lot now, and people spend the money to put these systems on to guide these tractors. It increases their yields. They can run through these fields within 6 inches of each pass. It's a big deal. And so there's a lot of manufacturers building these systems. So let's all agree it works. We're using it. So that's the point I'm making in this build up to looking at the Causeway data. Oh, and let's not forget, it's used in surveying a lot. Here's a guy doing some construction staking. They're about to pour concrete here. This could be a highway. It could be a bridge deck. I don't really know, but there he is using GPS. Here's a bridge, and they're monitoring the bridge using high precision GPS here, and here's another shot of some GPS equipment on this bridge. So it's used for monitoring bridges to high precision, and certainly to build these long bridges. So now let's get to the topic here tonight, the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway. I want to make mention that this thing was built back in the 50s, and it was built using old school surveying, transits, levels. Here is the triangulation. This was geodetic triangulation to establish control points out near the bridge, as they were using these as control marks to set out the piles and all of that. And of course, this old school methodology is still used today, except that it's not a manual transit, it's an electronic total station, but the same types of surveying activity takes place to build these large infrastructure projects. So what I'm showing you here are the control points that were established using, like I said, old school triangulation. I'm bringing this up because people lately have been saying, well, the instruments don't work. where you're looking too far, and all this. Well, these are the actual control points, and let's take a look at this particular one, number 1. Here's the data sheet on it. It's a first order triangulation station. That means its positional accuracy was determined to 1 part in 100,000, and that was back in 1953. The elevation, actually, they have some asterisks here, and they are talking about the subsidence. In the Louisiana area, in the New Orleans area, there's a lot of subsidence, and old published elevation values are no longer valid, so they didn't keep that elevation here, but you could go back and find the original, and you'd have the elevation there as well. So here's all this stuff about length and how far you should be able to see, or how far can you use these instruments and so forth. This one's about 7 miles from station 2 to 4. I'm just doing the inverse there. It's just around 38,000 feet. I'm rounding off. So there's an example. So they kept these close to the bridge. That was the purpose. I'll tell you what, if this bridge was not being built here, they would not have bothered to put these points here at all. They would have just measured right across the lake.
Right.
And from a higher tower or something like that, they would just build a 100-foot triangulation tower and observe really far, like some of these lines. Here's the rest of the triangulation going on. This is just the southeast corner of one particular map around Lake Pontchartrain. But if you really want to see some long lines, how about over here in California? Here's a little snippet of the California triangulation diagram. And here is Mount Diablo. These are very long lines, like 100-mile long lines. There's no question about it. It isn't a question of, oh, can they see that far and should they have gone that far? Well, they did. They do, or they did. We use GPS now, but back in the day, these lines were observed, these angles were measured, and that is what produces the maps that we have today. So that's just how it works.
Right, and the triangulations from the other directions all mesh up.
Of course.
They're all self-consistent.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, when you start to measure these very long lines, and when you form a triangle, you have what's called spherical excess, because these plumb lines are all away from each other, so you're actually going to be measuring a larger triangle. So you have to account for spherical excess. It's an actual measurable thing.
Right.
It actually exists. But I've kind of taken a little bit of a side road, but it was necessary because I want to emphasize again that the causeway, let me back up before I talk about Mount Everest. The causeway was built using these old school methods. And here today, or in these day and age, we have done a GPS survey. So we're going to see how well these things match up. Okay? It's something to think about. And again, they built that thing level across that lake. It's an amazing piece of construction. So, and as far as the long lines go, certainly, here's a little map showing Mount Everest and all these Himalayan mountain peaks that were determined. The elevations are determined from geodetic triangulation. Believe it or not. So let's get to
so all that to summarize, basically,
yes,
surveying works, triangulation works, and GPS works.
Yeah, I think it does.
Yeah. Well, it's not that we think it does. It's that we have practical results that show it does.
Absolutely. I'm just chuckling at some of the comments that I've seen, and so I don't know how serious to take some of it. So here is a video you can go watch over on Sally's channel. Sally was like at Command Central, up there in the room, doing the live streams, taking the long exposures, the video, and occasionally, us, wherever we were, I know Mike would be out wherever he was, wherever I was, we would kind of call in and get into a live stream. So you can watch this. This was Friday night, I think, doing the doing that first pass on the northbound side.
Yeah, what I call the GPS waypoints.
Yes, that's right.
Where you're recording locations of the surface of the bridge.
That's correct. So here's a little preliminary setup, assuring that we knew what the antenna height was above the road surface. So we put this is a magnetic mount on the car. I just used a survey rod and a plumber's level. This level has a groove in it, so it just sits right on top of that round surface. There's Mike holding it. Here we are measuring. Wanted to make sure everybody saw that it was level. I'm sorry that Bob, the science guy, took so much heat because the thing was his level was like a smidge out. So there's a picture of its level, and we're measuring to the nearest millimeter. If that level was out slightly, how far out would we be? So basically we know what the height of the antenna is above the road surface. There it is, mounted on the car.
And Napa's annual clearance event.
So this is me attaching to the Louisiana State University's GNSS live stream. Basically, it's called a VRS system, and I'm going to be getting corrections in real time. I'm also logging the raw data at the same time to process later. I remember as we were doing that live stream, people did not like the sound it made. It was, it makes a beep every time it stores a point. So it's incrementing point by point, and I think I had it set to 10 meters. We had it set to 3 initially. It was way too many. So, yeah, distance, 10 meters. There it is, right there. And there's the height of the antenna above the road, 1.53. And there I am going down the road. So I was going about maybe 40, 45 miles an hour. So that's the northbound collection. Now the next day, I did another pass, and you can watch this. This was a live stream that I tapped into and soundly put me on, and I was doing that northbound up to the crossover. So this was us preparing that antenna height, and here's Dandy Pandy helping me get that height measured, making sure it's level, and there it is. Looks level, right? Can we all get a check on that level?
Looks pretty good to me, Jesse.
All right. So there I am at milepost 0. That was my 0.85, and headed down the highway. So here's the data brought into Trimble Business Center, the software that I use. Looks like a blue triangle, right? So let's take a look at one of these points. We'll zoom in on point 1294. What you're seeing here, this is a base station called Mary, and we're using carrier phase differencing to post-process these vectors. So that's what this is here. These are continuous streams. And this is the raw data here. So we're zoomed in on point 1294. As I said before, this was on Louisiana, South Zone, state plane coordinates in meters, northing and easting, and the elevation. Here's the latitudes and longitudes. Now, what I'm going to go into next is my attempt at creating a visual, some type of graphic presentation of this data. As I said at the beginning of this presentation, normally you would take these coordinates and elevations and go start making a map. That's how we use the data normally. We're trying to create and show you the shape of this bridge. So what I did is exported the Earth-centered Earth-fixed coordinates, and I converted them into a local system where I was facing eastward, and That's what you're looking at now. So I've just changed the view from looking top down onto the bridge, and now I'm looking sideways eastward. That's what I did. And this, because I don't use three-dimensional graphics programs or animation, I don't have that skill set, but I could do a coordinate transformation that kept the integrity and the relationship of the values intact, but now I'm looking eastward. So let's see what we look at next here. Basically, I'm trying to get this view looking east from the from inside the Earth. So I've created a plane that encompasses the origin of the ECEF coordinates, which is 0, 0, 0, and forming a triangle that way. And that's the plane that I'm in. It's almost like a section through the Earth there. So here it is. Here I am showing you that view again in my software and what I'm trying to create. And I hope that's coming through. Again, if anybody knows how to do animation and can actually move this camera and make this happen, that would be awesome. But the point being is that what you're going to now start to see is the literal shape of the bridge. So here are, as I showed you before, the Earth-centered, Earth-fixed coordinates and their elevations. And now we're going to zoom in on a couple of these points. Here we are at point 44, right here. It's a little masked there, but that's elevation 5.72. Here's 573, 570. So the reason I'm doing this for you is that it's hard to visualize where these are in relation to each other. So I've created this view so that we can look at that. Let's take a look at some others. Now here you can see it's 5 7s. It's all these 5 7s. Now it's 5 8. Takes a little dip here. Then you see it's going to rise up. All right, that's the elevations. And this is one of the spans, one of the little shorter ones. It's rising up on a hump. And here we are looking at that hump. And this is what it looks like from the side view. This one's at 16.16 meters, 0.665. Okay. Let's take a look at, this is the bigger marine span. It's up here in the 18.5 meters, 18.57. You can see that. And afterwards, it starts to dive down again and get back down to the level elevations. So let's hear, this is the large hump. That's 0.1326 at 18.57 meters. See this line right here? That's the chord. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. That's the chord connecting from where I started and to where I ended on the level points. I connected two of the level points. So I'll show you that in another couple slides. Okay, so there's that point right there. Now, what are these guys doing? They're checking their pool cues. I found this on the internet, and I'm showing you this is how you check to make sure your pool cue is straight. When you look at that pool cue like this, if it's warped, it's been sitting over in the corner for a long time, no one's used it, it's going to have a bend to it, you're going to see it, right? Makes sense, right? Common sense. So here's what I'm going to do with the view, this cross-section view. I'm going to start to turn it from the side. You can start to see now there's a little hump there and there's a hump there, and turn a little bit more. And each time I turn it, I zoom in so you could kind of see what's going on. This is the shape of the bridge starting to appear as I turn in my software. And I think that's the large marine span. There's a couple humps one of these humps, Sally, you said you weren't even aware of, right? One of them, I forget which one.
Yeah, it's from the South Shore. If you're looking out at the 8 mile marine span, there's a marine hump directly behind it. I guess it's right about 9 miles.
Right. Oh, okay,
And
that'd be that one.
it's on the it's on the west lane, and I'll just from the angle that we normally look at, you don't pick it out, but it is there. You go back and look in the video footage, and you can
Okay.
see the cars.
Now, is it on the northbound side or the southbound?
It's on the north. It's on the southbound lane.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what this is, the southbound.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So there's that chord, and in fact, I think my next slide is to. Oh yeah, here's my last turn, and so that's about as far as I could go. And after that, the thing would start to disappear. I don't know why, but the graphics would not allow me to turn this anymore. That's as far as I could get, and so I made a screenshot of that. So here's the side view again, and that's my midpoint, 981. If anybody wants to check this math, that's the chord. It's 28 point, like rounded off to 28.5, let's say, or 28.46 if you want to go to the nearest centimeter. And this is the length from the first level point that I kept in my sample to the last level point. And that's the distance.
So pretty interesting that shape that you just showed us there, Jesse. Would you like to expound on that a little bit?
This shape right here?
Yeah.
Well, it looks curved to me. Is that where you're going with this? I mean, it's kind of obvious, right?
Yeah. Looks a little similar to photography, don't you think?
Yeah. Well, don't let the cat out of the bag yet. Keep in mind, these are level. I mean, if you look at these, except for the humps,
Exactly.
these are all at 5.7, 5.7, 5.7.
Right.
5.7. The thing was built to be level above that water. So I don't know. Do we really need to talk about the difference between level and flat?
Exactly. It's level and curved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's actually amazingly level considering the distance that they had to build this thing.
I'm telling you, it's
for 24 miles. They're very consistent, don't you think?
It's awesome. It's
an amazing.
It is an amazing
piece of architecture, really. Yeah.
It is. The way I phrase it is a monument to the curvature of the Earth.
It is a monument.
It's a man-made monument. It really is.
I totally agree with that.
It really is. So, and you can't make this up. I mean, it's just there. It is. I mean, I collected the data, processed it, output it. That's it. Here, and all this is just me trying to create views so you can see it. So there it is. Now, let's see. Where are we going next? Okay, so there's the chord. You can check that math if you want. This was pretty cool, though. I found this morning. I was just doing some searching on I forget what, but I came up. What I was really trying to find was construction, old historic, maybe photography of them building the causeway, and I thought maybe somebody captured some surveyors out there doing the work. I didn't find any of that, but I did find this article. This is from 2011, and somebody, I haven't read the whole thing yet, but he is talking about computing the radius of the Earth using this bridge. So it's interesting. I'm going to take a look at this. I'm just showing you a couple of portions of it, but look what I did here. I took a sample, just creating that blue circle is the result of doing what's called a three coplanar points in 3D would describe a circle. So I selected one of my beginning points, one in the middle, and one at the end, making sure that I didn't pick one of the humps. I wanted to make sure I was picking, the points on the level spans.
Right. The lower deck, as I call it.
And bam, there's the radius of the Earth from that. And I did 2 of them. I didn't even do a bunch. I did a couple of them. And then I looked up a calculator that gives you the radius by latitude. And we're right about at 30 here. The south end of the bridge is at 30. the north end is at 20 minutes. I just went with 30. And
So let me pause you here and just
Sure.
make sure that everybody in the chat or anybody that's listening right now that may have started reading the chat and not really paying attention, pay attention here. Okay. Jesse has measured the curvature of the Earth, and he has measured the radius based on that curvature. That's what Jesse did.
I did.
So there is no presupposing R anymore. Okay.
No, we have R.
It has been directly measured by Jesse Koslowski during Globe Earth Tourism 2019.
Yeah.
So
Roger that.
R is no longer presupposed.
No, it's actually
was.
It's monumented.
Exactly.
It is a concrete monument, 20 some miles long. So so here's what happened here. I did a comparison of what, and again, I didn't sit here and calculate this myself. I just picked these 3 points. I guess you could pick a whole sampling of them. And by the way, this is just the southbound lane. I didn't even look at the northbound yet. But we're within 0.5%, right? Somebody can check my math, but that is what we see here. So they did a great job.
Measurement, I'd have to say, Jesse.
I think so. That still won't stop me from going up to Maine to do the Alberuni method. I want to definitely meet up with Just a Maniac. He's on YouTube, Just a Maniac. Take a look. A surveyor up in Maine, and he's in my Facebook group, Geodetic Surveying Facebook group, and he did the Alberuni method using zenith angles to the horizon of the ocean from a mountaintop. And this spring, I got to go do that. It's just something I want to do. So what are these guys doing? Well, they're checking the lumber, right? Make sure it's straight. Everybody understands this, but everyone freaks out when they're looking at your photography thinking you have somehow magically changed the shape of the bridge. It just, I don't know. I shake my head. I don't know how to I can't take that seriously, I guess. But that's what they want to do. So here, let's take this circle. We're going to turn it a little bit, turn it a little more. I mean, doesn't that make sense? If you turn the thing and look at it straight on, it's going to change shape. Why? What? From perspective, right? So that's why I made this video called The Clown Frown Found, because we found the clown frown. And this is the thing that flat earthers want to see. They want to look out on the horizon and they want to see a curve like this. But that doesn't make any sense because the distance from here to here is small compared to the distance from here out to here. And this telescope is set level, and you notice that the horizon does not rise to eye level. This thing's only about 12 feet elevation. Yet I'm way over top of that lighthouse. Now, I'm going to just show you this because it helps, I think, get across this whole idea about what is it? The angle of attack? Is that what it is?
Right.
Okay, so everybody should understand that this is a side view, right? You're here and you're looking that way, right? So what happens if we turn that chart? So if I'm holding that chart in my hands and I turn it and turn it a little more, now I'm looking down it and everything's compressed, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what happens?
Right.
So now let's compare that to this. If I set this aside, let me move this over a little bit and bring the chart here. And we're going to just zoom in because this thing's only about, 8 miles away. So we're going to just zoom into this little area right there. And we're looking in that direction, which looks that way. See how that looks? You're looking out. Okay, and so the curve drops away from the horizontal tangent downward like that. That's how it works.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know why people can't understand that.
Seems pretty straightforward to me, Jesse.
Now, when were you in China? You took this picture, right?
I've never been in China.
Oh, well, then there must be a soundly in China, because somebody in China took this picture of this bridge. And you know what? I think they're I think they took these lamps up here and they used them as a fence, to prevent people from jumping off or something. And you know what? I think the pilings, you see these columns and these piles, they just had to use more and more and more of them. They're just closer and closer together. Oh, okay. So here we are in 2005. You've mastered the Mandela effect, haven't you? You've gone back in time and you took these pictures, didn't you?
Grandpa Stanley does have a time machine, so you never know.
So, I found these today and I thought, oh my God, okay, so everyone's attacking you for the pictures you've taken, but these pictures have been taken before. And it was you, wasn't it?
Exactly. I went back in time.
So now here's this History Channel did this video. I think it's from 2003. And look what I found. Dun, dun, dun. Look at that. Oh my God. Oh, see?
Look at that one. Yeah, you can actually see it kind of going over the horizon, maybe right there at the very end.
Yeah, looks curved to me. Dun, dun, dun. So yeah, that was aired on in 2003.
Nice.
Now this is what we all came to see. People who look at Walter. Yeah, people that look at Walter Bislin's blog will recognize this styling.
Walter Bislin, shout out to Walter Bislin, who has been in the chat. Thank you, Walter.
Awesome.
For all of your awesome work. Really awesome.
Yeah, I'm just smiling here. So he took the data that I sent him initially and created this app, and it's under development. So let's realize there's still things to be done with it, and I'm not really good at using it. I'm going to try my best to demonstrate it tonight. But so here's a kind of a side view, But now you come over here, and this is about from say the hotel, and it looks a lot like your photo. In fact, the rental car I had was a submarine car. I had to go underwater. That's over
so
there.
Just to clarify, this is your data that Walter has taken, and he has rendered it in a 3D space.
Yes.
And this is what we're getting.
Yes. And
very interesting.
Yeah. It is really. It's just awesome. So these are he took the XYZ coordinates. He wrote his own program to convert them back to Latin long. He computed. He's done absolute geodetic software writing. It's he's got all the calculations in here. It's awesome. So, well, here's the side view, and you're not going to see the curve from the side.
Right.
You see, that's the whole point. But you can measure it. It's there. You can measure it.
The actual shape, and I'd like to point this out too. We're talking about the actual shape of the Earth. This is like going out and touching it. It's like including a whole other sense. It's not just an observation of a photograph. It's not photographic. It's not optical. There's no refraction involved here. This is us going out and literally touching the surface of the bridge and saying, this is what the geometry actually is.
So yeah, let's tie it both together. You're right. There's no telescope involved here. This is just 3D points as a result of that GPS survey, which matches the old school survey. Those surveyors who laid this thing out and the guys who built this level across that water. Like I said, it's a standing monument. to the curvature of the Earth. There it is.
And this, again, is the Earth-centered, Earth-fixed coordinates. So these are X, Y, and Z coordinates plotted in a 3D space.
Yes.
And this is what you get.
That's right. So, and again, I just want to point out that, that is the northbound. There I am over in Mandeville, turning around, and then I came back and did the southbound. So, and there it is from the side. You're not going to see curvature from the side. Just, you're talking a couple of 100 feet on end to end from the side view. So just keep it in mind. This is how it works. Everybody's checked a piece of lumber. Make sure you're buying leave all that curvy lumber over there in the pile over there, and you walk out with nice straight pieces, right? So here is the side. There's the side, one of those marine spans, right?
Right.
So their History Channel took. There they are. They're out there in a boat. You haven't yet taken a picture like this, have you? From the side. You haven't been out on.
I haven't been out in a boat, right?
Yeah. So they did it. They did it for us. Okay, side view, straight on view. Side view, straight on view. Side view, straight on view.
Right.
Just think lumber. Yes,
exactly.
Yes. Okay. This is not hard, people.
Well, just to point out that marine hump is, I think, a mile long, maybe? The total marine hump?
We can measure it.
Okay, yeah.
We have the
data.
I've got the data. It's a gentle rise. You come up and over, and you go like that. And I've got all those points.
Right. And so this is a wide angle camera. I'd like to point out a wider angle than normal camera, probably like a 50 millimeter camera. And we're getting less than a mile, side to side here.
Yeah.
Maybe a mile. And whenever you zoom in from the side, you're only going to get like a handful of pylons. Like,
if you zoom
you're just
in,
not going to be able to get any amount of length worth looking at of the causeway from the side. So it's just so silly when you hear people, say things like, go to the side, take a picture from 90 degrees away. It's like, you have to be 20 miles away to do that. And you'd have to have a 60-degree field of view. How are you even going to see the bridge? You can't even see it from that distance.
Yeah.
Not to mention that both ends are going to be falling off behind the horizon.
It's amazing we had to go through this to make the obvious, but it sure was fun. I was glad to do it. So there it is. That's the Q-stick lumber view. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what it looks like. So, And I think the next slide is what I just got minutes before we went on
Walter,
air.
Yeah, Walter sent this to us just before we went on air.
Oh, wait. First I have to...
Where is it?
No, it's going to be the last. It's the last.
Oh, it's the last thing. Just hang around. It's almost here.
Yeah.
The money shot is almost here. We've had a lot of money shots, but this is the really money shot.
I wanted to mention the FE Corps Flat Earth Scientists because they just put out a video a couple days ago, and I listened to some of it. They've got quite a lineup of experiments that they're going to be doing involving lasers, some type of force the level tests. There were a number of them. And, I'm offering the data here. If you want to analyze this data, here are the raw files. These are binary encrypted files. No one can, you can't tamper with that file format. I've exported the file format to an ASCII RINEX converted. RINEX stands for Receiver Independent Exchange Format. That is available if anybody wants to post-process this data. Here's the navigation file. And there it is.
Boom! Look at that. Wow. Wow.
Now,
you can even kind of see some refraction going on there.
I think so.
Look at that. Refraction in the observation versus the actual geometry of the bridge. Side by side. Compare and contrast. Compare and contrast that with Walter Bislin's models. So we basically have three different things here. We have Walter Bislin modeling it, saying this is what it should look like. You go out and measure it. You say this is what it feels like, and I go and photograph it, and I say this is what it looks like. And
Correct.
They all agree with each other.
Yes, and keep in mind he could not import all the points. He sparsely displayed. I collected a lot of points. Let's put it that way. 30.
I thought he said every third point or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So he didn't need. In other words, he didn't need. Let me get my mouse going here. He didn't need ... That's sufficient.
Right.
To show you the shape. Sufficient. You don't need to fill it in any denser than that.
That is amazing right there, man.
Now I think it is great. And yeah, so he's working on the app. I'm going to just show the app right now without the photo.
Well, hold on before you leave here.
All right.
Let me make this point, and let me make it very clear for every debunker that's out there, every debunker that hears on a day-to-day basis, it's all to do with refraction and atmosphere and optics and all that. All of those arguments are completely defeated. Every single picture that we have showing curvature is now back on the board because here we are. We have measurements showing what the actual geometry of the bridge is, completely independent of any optical observation, and it matches the optical observation. And if anything, the optical observation is showing that there is actually refraction occurring that's making it look less curved.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these arguments coming from flat earthers defeated in one stroke right there, just by that data that Jesse went and collected. So use it. Use the data. Use Walter's application.
Yeah, let's take a look at it. And again, it's under development. So let's just see here. When you go to this his app.
That's awesome, isn't it?
Isn't it fantastic? And that's just what I needed. I wrote him an email. I said, can you work with these 3D points and bring them in? Because again, I have to emphasize, like what I said at the very beginning, this is not something we would normally do as part of a survey, of a bridge. You would survey the bridge and then you'd be producing AutoCAD maps of the structure, to be used in engineering. We do see more and more 3D type use now that we're doing lots of laser scanning, and drones are involved doing laser scanning and photography, and so 3D software is being used a lot. But like I said, I don't have that, and I can barely operate this app. Let me put it that way. But I'd like to learn how. But it's pretty cool. I mean, you throw the points in here, you can see. You come to the side, and this, as you zoom out, and you go all the way to the side, the span flattens out. Just the way it would if you were out here in a boat.
Yep.
You come over here, you go up into the hotel room.
Exactly.
I think he showed me how to.
There's actually a point on the hotel room, right?
Yeah, it is. It's the triangulated
there it
position.
Is right there. You see it
I think I do. Control Shift, click, and that's the view from the hotel.
Wow! Look at that. Does that
cool.
not look exactly like what we saw during the live stream?
Yeah.
Look at that. That's from the hotel room. So this is all of Jesse's points that he collected from the angle of the triangulated hotel room, because Jesse also triangulated the hotel room while we were there.
Yep. Actually, it's the position of your camera. I nailed that. And like I said, here you can see, you don't see when you go down into Manderville,
right.
You're below.
That's all below the horizon. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I had to roll the windows up.
You want to flood the car, huh?
I had to put it in amphibious mode. Oh man. No, the next thing we want to do is get those cell towers,
Yeah.
on here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think that's all I had.
That's really amazing, man.
So again, this is the initial presentation of what we have. I do, like I said, I'm making an offer to anybody that wants to. If anybody has some ideas on how to render it in some way or do some animations, that would be cool.
So, Jesse, take that link that you're looking at there and paste it in the chat so that others can give it a look.
Do I have access to the chat?
Oh, I can do it. Here, I'll do it. I'll do it. Let's see. Let's see.
Or should I send this over to you? I should send this
just send me that link.
Chat.
Send me that link, yeah. There we go. That'll work.
Where do I send this to you?
Send it to me on Hangouts. Can you do that?
I think so. Let me... I don't think my Hangouts are open. Yeah, they are.
Perfect. I'll just copy that and share that with everyone in the chat here.
So we've been going about, what, hour and 15 minutes about?
Yeah, that looks about right.
Not too bad. I didn't want to make it a big, long 2-hour deal.
Yeah.
Hopefully people might get some ideas based on what they saw tonight. Certainly people who watch this later, will look at the comments.
Well, I'd like to point this out is that, this tool that Walter has built, you can go get an app like Geo++ on your phone. Can you convert that to ECEF, Jesse?
Well, yeah. If you get that Geo++ app, I haven't tested it a whole lot. I tested it a little bit, and I did log some raw data with it. You're actually able to log this Gnss file that I showed people. Let me get back to that.
And so can Walter's app take a Gnss file, or does it just take X, Y, and Z coordinates?
What's happening is if people, you can do this with an Android phone. You can log this actual these raw observables.
Right.
Now you have to process that data. You've got to resolve these. These are pseudo ranges to the satellites or cell towers that are 12,000 miles away. I mean, these are actual...
That's a joke, guys. That's a joke.
Yeah. These are actually ranges from transmitters.
Exactly.
They all intersect somewhere.
Which is why it's so silly whenever they start talking about stuff being on the ground. It's so silly. I mean...
Oh, I know.
We're talking about it recording distances to objects in three-dimensional space that aren't on the ground.
Right, and that's the thing. I give you the... there's two things. There's the observation file, which is actually recording the data from the satellites, the range data. And then there's the Keplerian orbital parameters to compute the XYZ positions of the satellites. Mm-hmm. This navigation file is not your position. This is to compute the position of the satellites at the instant of transmission.
Right.
So that you can intersect those ranges to come up with your position.
Right.
That's a lot of wording, a lot of gobbledygook, but that's what's happening.
How GPS works. I mean,
that's how it works.
Yeah.
So now, if people, back to your question, if people want to try this Geo++ app, who has the money to go buy, really expensive GPS equipment, but you can get that app.
And so, what's the pipeline for people to go from Geo++, a Gnss file, to these XYZ values that Walter's model can?
That's what
app can.
We need to explore that in terms of looking for open source availability. There's a thing called RTK lib. Let me look it up. I'll show you this thing called RTK lib. No one's going to spend thousands of dollars on GPS software, right? So I think it's called RTK lib.
Just got a super chat for $13.99 from looks like Canadian dollars from Airline Pilot Research Global Airlines. It says, extraordinary work. Big thank you to Jesse, Soundly, and Walter. And well, thank you, Airline Pilot Research Global Airlines.
This one here may be able to do it. I've played with this. I'm no expert in it, but it is something available that you can download and play with it. And certainly, it has a lot of capability. Let's put it that way. However, it's one of those things that's not very user friendly. It's not
Right.
like polished software for the end user, but it is all RTK-lib. It's an open source package for GNSS positioning, so you may be able to read in those Rhinex files. I think that they are L1 only. I don't think they are dual frequency or multi-frequency. Well, no, it really depends on what your phone is doing. Some of these Android phones are actually pretty capable now. So I don't know. We'll have to look at it.
Yeah, it's gonna be device dependent, obviously.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the pathway is the Rhinex file is just the raw, unprocessed data. If you really are looking for sub-meter positions, you're going to need to post-process that
Yeah.
against.
So my what I'm picturing in my head, Jesse, is people driving like Interstate 10 across Florida,
Right.
which is going to be pretty much the same elevation the whole way. I mean, it's going to vary within reason, but when you're talking about hundreds of miles, if you can take something like that,
Oh yeah,
and pipeline it into into this app where you can actually see that curvature, and
Yeah.
you can have everybody doing that. You don't need a camera. All we need is a pipeline. People can download this app, go straight from that, boom, put it into Walter's
Yeah.
system, and
Yeah.
there you go.
Hey,
Directly measuring the curvature.
I wouldn't be surprised if, knowing Walter and the way he just programs stuff, he might be looking at this right now going, oh, I got to get that.
Yeah, maybe.
All of a sudden, you'll be plugging in Rhinex files to his app and, boom.
Well, yeah, obviously, if we had that kind of pipeline, that would be, to me, it would just be like, okay, that's the end. Like what else is there to do? We've actually directly measured the shape of the Earth, the geometry of the Earth. We've directly touched the physical surface with a GPS receiver and know where that spot is. Like at that point, the geometry, and you're not arguing about optics. You're not arguing about lenses being curved and silly things like that.
It will be interesting to see. Maybe interesting is not the word. What is the word? To see what the next reason is. What is it?
What type of perversion they come up with? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you just got to reach really far for something very obscure and strange. It was strange enough to hear me being told that surveying instruments are flawed and produce, bad results. And then how did they build this causeway? How'd they build this thing level across there for 20 plus miles? I mean, surveying either works or it doesn't. You can't have it both ways. And so now we've brought it all together. We've got old school survey that built that causeway using theodolites and levels, and now we've done it with a modern approach using GPS and verified the shape of the bridge. I don't know what else there is to say about it right now. And we measured the radius of the Earth.
Exactly. So no more presupposing R. We know what R is.
Yes.
Jessica Koslowski directly measured it, and anybody else can as well.
Yeah.
And this is the technique for doing it right here. And maybe, Jesse, that'd be worth showing, in detail. Okay, this, maybe a little 2-minute, 3-minute video. You take this data. Here's the chord. This is how we measure the radius.
Yeah, I could do that. I could show, the actual. Well, anybody can Google that. Is how do you determine the radius of a circle using 3 points that are on that circle? So, and here we have a huge sample of all these points. We could probably do a linear regression of sampling lots and lots of them to come up with a really good approximation of the radius according to the shape of that bridge. Cutting out the spans, only use the level portions. We would get a very good best fit of where the radius is based upon that structure. So, just
awesome, Jesse.
Just need more time to play with these things, but
yeah,
it's fun. It's fun.
It's amazing the tools and the innovation that has happened by Walter and the methods that we've gone about to just demonstrate beyond a shadow of a doubt the Earth is curved. It's so silly to think that we have to do that, and we don't really. But we do it because it's fun. It really is fun. I mean, it's the photography work that I do is really fun. I enjoy it. I'm getting unique photography that no one else has gotten before. Of course, now we have a few people have done it, and Jesse is pursuing his hobby with geodetic surveying.
Yeah.
And so we are having a lot of fun doing it. But at the same time, I think this type of information is something that it's so obvious and so ironclad now, and we've avoided the final hurdle that they like to throw about with the optics. That I really hope that everyone in the stream first will like and subscribe to my channel, and second,
Hey, me too.
Yeah, and Jesse's channel, and go to Walter's blog. And
Absolutely.
Walter has a channel as well too, though he doesn't do very much as far as the flat Earth stuff on there. But go like and subscribe, and then also get this information out there. Like, bring people when you're talking to people on Discord or in chats or in comments, wherever you are when you're talking to flat earthers. Bring them to Walter's blog. Show them how, take screenshots, post it on social media. Show them how we have literally measured. Jesse has literally measured. I have literally photographed, and Walter has literally modeled the curvature of the Earth. They all agree, and that's how we know the Earth is a globe. And that's all there's to it. And that's how we know it can't be flat. So please share this information.
And you and I have had this conversation before. We both became aware of flat Earth, jumped in, pretty naively initially.
Right.
I've gone round and round with it, and at this point, I'm thankful for flat Earth because I'm blessed to have a profession that I really enjoy. I've loved surveying since getting out of high school. So I've been doing this a long time, and really thought I knew something about it. Well, the research that I've been doing over the past couple of years, I've learned a lot that I just didn't know about, and it's just great. I'm really enjoying it. And if you go on my channel, you'll see I did not set out to debunk flat Earth. I was more about, hey, can I do some measurements that will show me what the shape of the Earth is over this short distance, say a mile, or across some water? Hey, let me try it across a lake. I'll use the lake as a level. Exactly. I've done several of these tests, and you can't fake that. I mean, the observations will reveal the truth of the matter, and especially when you repeat them over and over. And I do that. When I've gone out on a weekend to do that, I'll spend the day there, and you're observing in the morning from one side, you go over to the other side, again you observe, and then you do it again in the afternoon. These repeated observations agree with each other, to very high reliability. So I've done long tests and short tests. I've gone down and met with Larry Scott, and really owe Larry some time. We really need to do a hangout and show the work we did over the couple of days I was down there on some pretty long lines, 6 miles, 9 miles, 11 miles. And we're planning to do like a 24-mile line. And I mean, really what we're enjoying doing is bringing back old school survey,
right.
Doing old triangulation, doing solar azimuth observations, which I used to do them all the time in the 80s, but, I don't really do it anymore, but I'm going to be doing it. Larry's got a really good method down. He can crank out a solar observation in 5 minutes. Boom. And he's like, and he's a pencil and paper guy, just gets it all down there. It's awesome. So, that's what I'm saying is it's not about debunking flat Earth anymore as much as
it's not. It's really not.
Going back, reading about the history, about how we can't come to know the size and shape of the Earth, looking at what they did, and enjoying kind of I guess some people like to do reenactments of the Civil War, or they like to do anachronistic medieval stuff. I'm enjoying bringing back some of these older methods and exploring them and trying them and seeing if I can do them. So it's fun. I'm having a good time with it. It's good.
Yes. I think, there's a lot to be said about this whole activity. We've all met each other online. Yeah. We've all come together and collaborated on some fun projects.
Yep.
So, I mean, there is a silver lining to it all.
That's why I call it Earth Curvature Tourism.
Exactly.
Or you've called it
Globe Earth Tourism.
Globe Earth Tourism, yeah. I mean, Lake Michigan, got to do that. Got to do that circuit around Lake Michigan.
Yes.
I haven't even made a video about it yet, but I did. I went up and did that Long Island Sound from Connecticut looking. I mean,
Right.
it's like freaking what? It's over 50 miles. It's further than that. And I'm not going to do it tonight, but I need to make a video of that, seeing the Empire State Building and the World Trade Center building
Right.
sticking up like a little. It looks like a little. Just the top of the building sticking up above the water line.
Amazing, right?
You know, I got to do a blink video of that.
You definitely do, man. You need to get those observations out.
Yeah.
For sure.
So all good stuff. So you want to call it a night here?
Yeah, let's wrap it up. Stephen Bowman just gave me a $9.99 super chat. Keep up the observations. Keep measuring. Thank you, Stephen. Really appreciate that. So Jesse,
Yeah.
I do want to continue to do globe Earth tourism. Like like you said, I think flat Earth is dead now. It's really no reason even debating them anymore, to be honest. But I do enjoy the photography, and I want to keep doing globe Earth tourism. So we're definitely going to have to plan something for a year from now.
Absolutely.
I don't know what, but we're going to have to do something. So I have to keep it in your mind what we're going to do. Maybe I'll come to you this time, huh?
Yeah, you should come up here, or I think we go meet at Lake Michigan.
Lake Michigan. We could do the circuit around Lake Michigan.
Oh my God, that'll be good.
That would be fun.
That would. All right.
Okay, so before we wrap it up, though, real quick, I did release a video last night of the eclipse, all 4K shots of my high-resolution photographs. My high-resolution photographs for 8K. Those 4K shots should be plenty good for anybody. You can just take a screenshot. I mean, that's going to be like a 50% sized image, and they came out really good in that time lapse for the eclipse. So if you're looking for those pictures, they're all there. I put them all in. I will, though, if any of my patrons want the full 8K versions for patrons only, I will provide a folder that I've already put this in my patron stuff. I'm going to provide a folder where I'm going to put my highest resolution images I'm going to autograph it, but it will be available there for any patron, starting from the lowest level, $1 or more a month, and you will have access to this folder. They will be copyrighted, so you will not be able to share them, but you will be able to print them and use them for your own personal use. So that's for anybody that wants to look at my Patreon account. There it is at the top. Jesse, thank you very much for coming.
You're welcome, man.
I also have started a merchandise shop with some prints of my photography as well. If you want to look into that, I'll actually link it in the description after this. Jesse, thank you for coming. Walter Bislin, I know you're out there. I know you're watching this.
Thanks,
Thank you
Walter.
very much, Walter, for all your hard work, man. The stuff that you've done in the last, year and a half has been amazing, and we really appreciate your work. And Walter, open invite to come onto my channel for an interview anytime you want. Might need a translator, so if there are any German-speaking... where's he from again? He's from Switzerland, right? If there are any German-speaking Switzerland out there, might need a translator. But I do want to get Walter on here eventually. So
That'd be great.
Jesse, thank you, and everybody out there in the chat. Thank you very much.
Good night, everybody.
For coming. Good night, and we'll see you in a little while. Actually, I'm planning on doing a live stream tomorrow for new subscribers. So just to introduce them to the channel if they haven't already seen it. So
Talk to you soon, brother.
Bye.
Bye-bye.